they just go away because they can't see these chairs. So you can tell him that he can sit here next to me, like Christmas. Uh, all right, 11:30. Let's get started right on time because we've got an hour to spend together, which is a lot of time, which means that we can have great discussions and dive into technology. We're gonna have plenty of time for questions and answers, so it'll be fun. But before I introduce myself officially, just a quick show of hand. Who's let's like sequence of questions. Help me understand who you are. How many of you work with React these days on a daily basis? So most of you. Anyone here who's a front end slash full stack developer works with Angular? Right? All right. So are a few Angular developers. Um, so you're here to see the future. No, I'm kidding. No, I am using Angular for a lot of years, still using Angular. And the reason I ask, because one of the things that we will discuss today in some point is the title of this session is AI-driven development with Next.js, which is the meta framework for React. There is a meta framework for Angular, which is important to get familiar with because today you're working with React, but your next job you might be find yourself working with other technologies, whether it's Angular because it's still popular, it's still out there, or any other framework. Probably that's gonna be either Vue.js, React slash Next, or Angular because that's what's going on these days. Anyone here working with Svelte, like on a real project, just out of curiosity? Svelte, solid kind of like, but building like the entire application or just personal project. So no one here works with any other framework. Which one? Vue, yeah, Vue is very popular. I just was curious about Svelte and Solid to hear if there's anyone who's actually building, a real product. Side projects, it's fun, but all right. That's a statement that I really, really like. That's the reason I decided to start my session with this statement because a lot of the discussion today is AI going to replace us as developers? So I adopted this statement. It won't replace, I don't believe it will replace developers, but it will replace developers who's not familiar with AI and work with AI technologies on a daily basis. So that's a starter. The title for today is AI-driven apps with Next.js. And yeah, AI seems to be everywhere. So hopefully it's not going to be just another AI session. Hopefully my main goal today is first of all to expose you the options of how you can integrate LLM as front-end full stack web developers. Yes, with a specific technology, but I'll say right away, it doesn't have to be Next. Although by the end of the session, we will talk about which stack I'm probably going to choose if I want to build this kind of experiences we see today. And I will show you an example, a small example of an Angular app, even if most of the work working with React and Next, because it sometimes you discuss your tech stack and I think it's very important to see like other technologies and how they deal with the same thing. This is me. My name is Nir Kaufman. Been like in the JavaScript business, I would say, for something like 15 years, 20 years in the industry. Started with Java, then dived into a rich internet web application with Flex and Flash when it was still alive. Anyone? I'm not the oldest person in the room. You know what I'm talking about. No, just checking because sometimes I'm talking about Flex and Flash, and you have like a room full of young developers, in their 20s, and what is talking about? What is Flash? Before Bill, who killed it? Apple killed Flash. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember this day that he decided, our friend decided that Steve Jobs, that Flash is not good enough. And my new device, iPad, it's gonna change the entire world. It's not gonna support Flash anymore. And that's the day that Flash start to die. Although it is funny talking about our topic today because it seems like in the days of Flash you can do whatever you want, everything compiled to a SWF file, and then you just need an extension, a player, doesn't matter which browser you're working with, and you get your full performance whatever, 60 frame per second, doesn't really matter what's your infrastructure, everything is inside the sandbox, and just play your application. And it seems like that today, 2024, we kind of coming back to these concepts. If you're familiar with Flutter, for example, it's kind of the same thing, same ideas that evolved. And Next.js, it's kind of like PHP coming back to us. But shh, because there's another conference of PHP developers on the other side. Don't talk with them. Uh, because they might feel that PHP is coming back and get this good feeling that they actually can get a job and get paid, and that's like we don't want to give them hope. Right. Let's start our session with a quick overview of some definitions, some very 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 basic terms. We're not going to dive into machine learning development, into hardcore, model training and how to build a neural network. But it is important to understand some very basic concept, at least to be aligned that we are all speaking the same language. So the first one is Gen AI, because Gen AI is not AI. AI is just a term, just an umbrella, just a concept. Is like an abstract description of bunch of other technologies. Machine learning is a subset of AI, of what we're calling AI. Deep learning is a subset of machine learning, and generative AI, Gen AI, is a subset of deep learning. I mean, the whole purpose of this is just to make sure that we understand that when we are going to work with Gen AI, we're going to generate text, because text is not just text. Text can be HTML, and text can be objects, and text can be code, basically. But it's not like considered to be like to say that we're working with AI technologies. That's great, but Gen AI, that's where we focused on. There are machine learning models which are not considered to be Gen AI. When you choose the model that you want to work with, like we will see soon in our code, you've got plenty of options. Today, we're gonna demonstrate how to work with OpenAI models, and OpenAI alone got right now 10 different models that you can choose from. And it's important to, first of all, most of OpenAI models are Gen AI or LLM, large language models, but few of them are not. And sometimes you want to mix and match. And one of the key factors that I learned out of my experience recent years building LLM driven apps is that one of the things that most developer missed when they're just starting to build these experiences is the fact that you can't just stick with one model. If you want to use, for example, OpenAI API or Gemini or whatever, just stick with one and expect to get like the best result out of it. If you build, for example, if you aim for building some kind of an assistant, but the model you choose is more of an instruction-based model or dialogue-based model, or like a model that was fine-tuned to do something else a little bit better, and then you get completely different results. You don't understand why. You say, well, AI is not going to replace me. It's not smart enough. This technology is not ready yet. And you move forward. So as an application developer, it's important to understand that models that generate classification, probability, numbers are important for us as developers. They're not considered to be Gen AI. Gen AI will generate things that we can consume: language, images, audio, video. Cool? Nice. LLM, which is a very specific machine learning model, is trained to deal with text, not just natural language, English, like I said before, textual material. Now, yeah, eventually it was trained to work with natural language, for example, English or Spanish or whatever. So it wasn't trained to work with, for example, code, unless your programming language is a high-level programming language, which is very close to English, and then you get better results. So if you try to get a snippet of code from an LLM, and you get a completely like I wouldn't say completely, but something which is not very, very like you see that you have to review it before you can use it. There are probably two reasons. One, you're trying to use a generic model that wasn't tuned for code, wasn't trained on snippets of code, or you just use, an LLM that, or excuse me, or your programming language, the snippets that you're trying to get out of it, it's not a high-level programming language. So it's not close enough to English and it's not popular enough. For example, if I jump to the browser, let's go to, yeah, let's come here. For example, familiar with Claude? Yeah, that's my favorite recently. Claude got a feature which is, I think it's still under a flag called artifacts. Everyone heard about it? Claude artifacts? Two people. Great. So let's see an example. First of all, most of the LLM, the popular public-facing LLM today, got this upload button, so you can upload your documents right here. So I can literally give him a piece of code, for example, as a reference, instead of typing everything and give him an example. But Claude specifically, um, design. Let's start with the most terrible prompt ever. Build or give me an example of a timer function with JavaScript and HTML. We will talk why this is a very, very bad prompt, but Claude knows how to generate code in a very much better than ChatGPT, OpenAI, for example. So it's gonna write down some code, and then it's gonna give me an HTML preview so I see how it works. But that's not all. I mean, I can literally this artifact thing. I can literally give him like tons of files, like an entire project, and ask him to convert and refactor and replace files, and the results that I'm gonna get here, I'm gonna get a lot of context. So if I upload a few files, they've got some dependency between them. It can understand it. It's still considered to be a generic model that can do a lot of things, but it can work very, very good with code. Another example, V0. How many of you heard about V0? Just checking. So most of you haven't heard about V0. V0 is a model. Excuse me? Cool. Cool. Nice. V0 is a model that is literally was trained and tuned to build UI. So I can ask him build a card credit card interface. All right, let's be like super generic, all right, without too many details, and that should be enough for V0 to generate well, I would say production ready code, and you just validate it because it's doing like great job. And it's not just producing me a snippet of code. As you can see, there's also import statement. So you can break your UI component into different components and work with it. What I'm trying to say is that was like a sneak peek on Claude, on V0, on oh, that looks nice. Actually, I was surprised. V0, Claude, OpenAI, different public-facing available models. Each one of them going to give you a different results. And if we're speaking about, being a developer, application developer, front-end developer, full stack developer today, uh, just like that when we dive into the code, we won't choose one model to do everything. When I use my helpers, I use like all of them. Each one of the models will give me specific results for the task that I'm trying to achieve. On top of all of this, I'm working with Copilot built in my IDE. So on every line of code, I can open Copilot. How many of you see pre-snoring talk this morning? Seen it? No. Yeah, he knows a lot of secrets, but again, he's working at Microsoft. I told him I've seen his session last week in NG Poland, and I told him you've got some great tips and great stuff over there. Where's the documentation for all of this? Because I couldn't find like a guide for all of his tips. But again, it's a combination. So it's a combination. I'm using Claude, ChatGPT, V0, Copilot, all of them together, each one of them for a specific task that I want to achieve. And on my code base, I will do the same thing. I will mix and match different models with different for different purpose. Cool. Chatbots. So it seems like that everything we've seen right now, we've got the standard chat interface. Your prompt, your input is text, and you're getting back text. Yes, you can get back code snippet, which is literally text. But again, we're talking about text in, text out. The technology that we're gonna use today is Next.js. Next.js is all about server-side rendering. React server component, this is the returning of PHP, ISP, JSP, you name it, but with JavaScript and like apparently much more easy to digest. The way I see it in the perspective of again of like almost 20 years in the business is that is the exact same ideas, but it took us time to be able to adopt it because as JavaScript developers, front-end developers, um, when you remember the times not so long ago that every year there was a new framework popping out, and now it seems like that we've got kind of stabilized. Every library got its own meta framework, and server-side rendering that's the baseline today. So it seems like the same ideas, but eventually it's server-side rendering. Why server-side rendering is so important for building LLM apps? Well, because I can render my UI on the server side. Now, working with LLMs, implementing our business logic, it's 100% server side. Yes, there is like a new era of Google just released their built-in native API of a model that works inside your Chrome, which you should try. It is amazing. Now you need to set up a flag, and then you can have native API inside your Chrome on your machine that you can interact it with native API, which and you can do a lot of stuff. So we are working into this era of like having our own local LLM, but it's still considered to be a backend or a backend process. Next.js specifically, it's a combination of React and Node, which we call BFF. How you familiar with the term BFF? How many you heard the term BFF in the context of not too much, yeah, BFF in the context of our profession, yeah, not best friend forever. Because real developer don't have friends. You don't have friends. You have colleagues. That's fine. We don't have friends. All right. Friends is bad to our career. What a message from this session. Yeah. Don't tell the organizers that that's what you learned. Yeah, I've been this next session and I learned that there are no friends, just colleagues. Anyway, BFF, a term that came up in the last 2 or 3 years, backend for frontend. Our frontend role was expanded not just for JavaScript running inside a browser, but we need a tiny Node.js server, which is coupled to the frontend, and most of the time implementing stuff that our real backend don't want to implement, like server-side rendering, but also caching, but also enable us to run code on the Node.js side. Specifically, Next.js implementing server component in React and got this feature called server actions, basically code that I can run on the server side and call him directly from my client side code. Nice developer experience. And API routes, everything baked in, which make specifically this technology, from my opinion, from my experience, a better choice of implementing stuff that I'm going to show you today. All right. Let's start to make it a little bit faster and fun. Vercel, the company beyond Next.js, their core team work with Meta core team, with React team to build like a better experience. They release an AI SDK. How many of you heard about Vercel AI SDK? Just checking. The reason that I'm getting this feedback just to see, if everyone's familiar with this, we can just move forward. But if not, I want you to AI Vercel AI SDK. There are a lot of SDK slash abstractions out there to give us as developer better abstraction and API to work with LLM. There are a bunch of them. There are too much of them. What's so special about Vercel AI SDK? Because that's the same company that works on Next.js, and Next.js built on top of React, and everyone works together, they came up not with just another standard AI SDK, which technically speaking, out of the box can work with Svelte, Next, and plain Node.js. But yeah, it's a small screen. I keep forgetting that it's a very, very small screen. All right. They've got a nice integration with Svelte, Next, and Node.js. You don't see here Angular, not because there's something bad in Angular, just not, well, nothing bad about Angular, just not good enough for server-side rendering. Yeah, strange sentence. But the thing about AI SDK is that it was built to integrate very, very well with React server components. Just by picking on the menu, you will see stuff that you won't see in other SDK. For example, AI SDK UI and AI SDK React server component. So this AI SDK is aimed for frontend, for UI. And that's the difference. So next time you sit down and you want to start designing a product and you know that it's not going to be just consumed by API and you've got React on your stack, you might want to choose Next.js, not because you need caching and SEO and all this buzz, or not even for performance. You might want to choose Next.js because of the open source AI SDK in order to get a stack, which is like aim for being very, very productive and build a full stack experience working with LLM. And that's as far as I know, but please correct me if I missed something because I'm pretty much in the React ecosystem, React and Angular. This is the only AI SDK that I know today that integrate very, very, very good with React and build on top of React server components. All right? We already understand. And the key word here is streaming. Let's jump into the code. This is a Next.js project. If you're new to Next.js, it's the minimal project. And I don't know if I can make the menu larger. No, I can't. Sorry. Let's see. No. Can you see it? Like it's tiny, but let's give it a try. Yeah, it's not that bad. You've got a folder called app, like any modern meta framework. It's a file system-based routing, which means that right here I've got a page, convention over configuration. And if I've got a file name page in the root level of my project, it means that if I hit localhost 3000, not 3000, I'm going to get whatever I rendered here, which is just, an image with logo and blah, blah, blah. All right. So this is Next.js. New feature of Next.js is this nice pop-up label down there to tell you whatever the page you are watching is static or dynamic. Tiny improvement to have more control about this world of hybrid server-side, client-side applications. Cool. One of the features of Next.js is being able to create API routes, which basically when you hit a route, instead of getting back a React component, which is a page, You're getting back, well, data, whatever you want. Don't be mistaken, like a lot of developers that I met thinking that this is enough for building your backend because it wasn't designed for it, but it is good for our purpose. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna import OpenAI from SDK OpenAI. I'm gonna import stream. Let's do it differently. Let's do import. This all noise that you think that's like Copilot, like being crazy. And sometimes you just I'm just shutting down the auto completion because it's impossible to work this way. Something just get out of my way. You can see it live. I mean, it's disturbing. It's not all right. So AI, and from AI, I'm gonna bring in the stream text function. Just the name of the function applies that this SDK is fine-tuned for streaming values from the server to the client. Because other SDK don't have this very, very high-level stream text thing. Now I'm going to export an async function called post because it's going to be a post request. So here it's going to be my request. TypeScript, of course. I don't need any response here. This is an API route. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to take from the request JSON. I'm going to call request JSON to get the body. From the body, I'm going to get my message like this. That should work. It should be a wait. That's the reason it doesn't like what I'm doing. And now I want to paste in the minimal amount of code you need from AI SDK in order to get chat experience. Message yes. String text. Choose your model from OpenAI. Now I'm using the GPT-4 Turbo. You've got a bunch of them. You're going to see an example soon where I'm using an OpenAI embedding model to do some other tasks and some other models to get better results, better dialogue experience. For this example, GPT-4 Turbo would be fine. System, you're a helpful assistant. System is very important. I want to like take a minute to talk about it. There are two terms. One of them is very, very popular these days. How many of you heard the term prompt engineering? Like, yeah, all of you, basically. You haven't heard about it, you can step out of the room. We'll wait. Go to the PHP conference. You belong there. No, I'm kidding. Sorry. Yeah, no PHP developers here. Yeah, we can be just between us. It's not being recorded and streamed to the entire Europe. Uh, where have been? Prompt engineering became a buzzword. Most of you raise your hand. What is prompt engineering? No, you're okay. Like specify in a more clear way what I want to get out of. The thing is that there are two technical terms in the world of prompting. One of them is prompt engineering. The other one is prompt design. Prompt design is less popular. This is like kind of official terms. Prompt engineering is all about performance. Prompt design is our job. Let me explain. It's like SQL. I know how to write SQL. I'm not an SQL expert. If I need to build a full stack application and I need to work against a database, I will be able to write SQL queries to give me the data. If I need performance, if I need to do complex join tables and I'm working with different sources and it's requiring me to build queries that are fine-tuned for performance, I'm not the right man for the job. That's not part of my skill set. I'll probably go to a backend developer or someone or any, I don't know if they still exist, the database, the admins or whatever, who knows SQL very well because I need performance. Prompt design is about performance. It's not even natural language. It's a completely different format that aim for getting not just the best results, to get it fast and yeah, accurate as possible, but specifically fast. Prompt design, on the other hand, is what we sometimes mistaking as prompt engineering. This is natural language. This is where you can see now that there's like a bunch of blog posts and cheat sheets how to design your prompt to get the best results. You should explain the LLM like he was a child. You are uh, an assistant in the music business with bunch of typos. Too much typos, if you ask me. In the music business, uh, you're helping a customer to find a song. Let's say, all right. If the customer is asking you questions, if you don't know the answer, you can ask the customer for more information. Don't lie. Don't come up with things that you don't know. Do this. Your name is like that. This is your persona. An example and uh, example for answer, and that the tone that I would like to get. This is called prompt design. So the prompt that I'm building here, it's not necessarily be fast, but it will help me as again as a web developer, application developer to get a better result. This part is being missed by a lot of developers, even people like us that using the public available models, because we usually try to get like the last, I mean, sometimes it's just like two sentences and I assume that it's gonna give me the best results. As much information as possible, example for output, other references, the more you put here, the more you get better results. Any questions regarding? Now, prompt design is natural language, so the secret is that there are no true rules about it. So you can kind of filter all the noise that you're getting from the internet, because every second person will give you tips of how to do better prompt design, and that's my cheat sheet and that's the format. And what I learned the hard way is first that different models got different prompts that they work better with. So it's not one cheat sheet works for all of them. So you should read the doc. Actually, yesterday at the workshop, um, we asked Chat GPT, give me an example of a prompt designed to give me the best results with the 3.5 turbo model. And ChatGPT, because they're the same company, they give us like a reference. Well, if you want to get the best results out of this specific model, here's an example with an explanation of how you want to get it. So this is part of what we're doing. Don't let it slip. All right, next. Once we've got this minimal amount of code, I can return um, results. Yeah, we call it result. Yeah, result. To data stream response. And technically speaking, we're done. This is the foundation, and that's the beauty of Next.js, AI SDK, and API routes. We're going to build a React component in a second to get us like, well, chat experience. But that's not enough because we need to do some front end stuff. So now I'll jump to my React component. And this one gonna be even easier than the last one. No, almost. I just want to save us some typing time. This is like off topic, but I just discovered recently that if you've got two MacBooks, you familiar with this? Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I can take my mouse and it's just like whoop, moving to the other computer, and then you can drag files and do some stuff in if they're near each other and you logged in with your Apple ID. So, off topic. Apple technology works amazing with other Apple technology, doesn't work with the entire the entire world. All right. What you see here, my friend, is like the integration and why Next is shining. You see a hook that is provided by the same SDK, AI slash React, not AI slash React server component yet, but without any further configuration. This hook knows how to communicate with the chat API route, convention over configuration. You're looking for a slash chat API route. And because here we use the two data stream response, that's the only code that we need to implement in order to get a streaming of messages and even an input handler that we can put on our submit button for the prompt. So it's being controlled and I can handle my submit here. And I can also have the is loading Boolean so I can get this nice behavior. And yeah, a very, very high level of abstraction, but a lot of configuration just got out of the way. So if I take this component, for example, I want to take this one specifically. I'm going to take like a styled one, the exact same thing. Yeah, there's no cheating here. It's just Tailwind. And like you add a Tailwind and it's like 500 lines of code. But the exact same component as you've seen before, the same input, the same everything, just, well, Tailwind. Let's take this chat and put it on the page. So instead of this, we're going to put this. All right. Let's type something like, who are you? And I got this nice, tell me a long bedtime story. I just want some more text, all right? And I get this beautiful, nice text streaming with literally 4 lines of code. So high level of abstraction, but the uniqueness of the AI slash React SDK is that it was designed to work with Next. So all you need is to implement the API route, and from this point on, you can obviously you can build on top of it. Yeah, you can add the temperature, and you can add extra configuration and templates and whatever you want to do. But the whole two data stream response and stream text and the convention of like using a chat route, they have this use chat just out of the way. You can focus on building your UI, your React component, and drop everything. I honestly I worked with other, front and back end implementation of this to get the same nice streaming effect, and it was just a lot of boilerplate code. This is the first example. Anyone seeing this for the first time, just out of curiosity? All right, nice. Most of the room. But we are greedy. That's not enough for us. Let's take it a step further. All right. Yeah, that's super cool. Any questions before I leave this example? Base, yes, please. Oh, sir. Yeah. If you want what, like a different routes for different models to work? No, you can. Yeah, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can configure it, but out of the box, this way or another, uh, this communication between the use chat hook and the API route is done for you, so you don't need to deal with the HTTP request and everything. Right? But yes, for sure, yeah, you can expand it and actually Vercel AI SDK. Now that you're familiar with it, you can check out. They've got like a bunch of templates, pre-made templates that you can clone from GitHub, and you see like a blown example of everything you want to do with it. All right. But just like the minimal amount of boilerplate to get the full stack experience and focus again on the React component side and not dealing with the entire, like, let's instantiate a streamable instance of whatever. And you've got a question. So you've got a feeling that, go ahead. Mhm. Useful to use the term prompt UI. Mhm. I'm not sure what is prompt UI. I don't know. The two officially terms are prompt design and prompt engineering. Yeah, I should. All right, let's talk about RAG. Who knows what is RAG? RAG? Few people, but not enough. RAG, that's like the game changer when it comes to building applications today. It means retrieval augmented generation. Basically, it means I want to build my product. I don't have the time, the money, and the ability to pre-train a machine learning model. For this reason, there are companies like Google and Meta and OpenAI, and every day there's a new company who published a new model. I want to use the power of this generic model, but I want to add my own data, my own business logic, my own resources with it, so I can build specific product without pre-train my own model. So basically, RAG is a pattern. RAG is more as an architecture in a way. There are a few steps in this RAG process. First, I need to load some resources. When I say load, I need to pass them in some way. So it can be PDF files, it can be images, it can be well, JSON, obviously, code, you name it, but not just that. I can also load from web resources. I can search for YouTube videos and load the transcripts. I can point it to a website and load everything which is public or API routes or whatever. I need to load some data. Then I'm going to take this data and I'm going to split it. Split it in the more official term is tokenize it. I'm going to take a lot of raw data. I'm going to chop it into pieces. You chop it into pieces, it's easy to digest. Then I'm going to take these pieces through the process of embedding. Embedding means um, converting these tokens into vector representation of data. Vector set of numbers. These vectors, you can think about a multi-dimensional graph and group of numbers all around, and it's all about how close values are to each other. Similarity search. Because eventually LLM, a good LLM, is all about, well, vectors and how the numbers are close to each other. It doesn't know but nothing about natural language or whatsoever. It knows that 0.3 is close to 0.4, so that might be my next guess for the output. Once I've got a vectorized representation of my data, I need to store it. I can't store it in a traditional relational database. It's not suitable for this data structure. So these days, the money goes for like companies who's building like ChromaDB, which is open source, building a vector source. This is just a tiny example. An open source AI application database, batteries included. It's a database that know how to store vectors and give you the ability to work with vectors. Cool? So RAG is all about this. If there's one slice that you should take from this like one-on-one course on RAG, is this one. I want to build a system that when I ask a question, when I prompt, I first of all I retrieve my own data, but I'm also hitting the LLM directly, and then I get a mixed response, the whole knowledge of the huge LLM, but with my own data that I retrieve from my vector store, and now we can be more specific. Let's look let's see an example of this. I'm gonna close this project, and I'm gonna open up higher power, npm run dev. All right. So this is a tool aimed for recruiters, HR recruiters. I call it higher power. Higher power said, well, you can get a CV from candidates. They will send me their CFPs, CFP. CV, I might give them this nice interface where each one of you can upload his own CV. And then when I prompt, I can get data from the CV. Now, what AI got to do with just a simple search mechanism? Because if I want to implement search, that, I've got my own document, you search for a word, yeah, come up with a result. LLM and AI technology come into the game to enable a similarity search. So, for example, if your CV is you wrote that you work with Python and you worked with C++, and none of you has mentioned the term backend developer, for example. If I ask the LLM find me a backend developer, it might find your CV because you're working with Python, and Python is similar or related to backend technology, and not for if I'm looking for, I don't know, someone with experience with embedded technologies. So C++ wasn't part of the results. So now I'm going to ask him a questions like, who is Nir Kaufman? Or you know what? Find me a front end developer. Found, not found. That's in Swedish. That's my second language. Any people from Swedish here in the room? No. So I can speak completely nonsense and you. All right. All right. Yes, I can definitely help you to find a front-end developer. We have a few candidates with different backgrounds, skill set, someone with Angular, someone with, again, with Angular experience. I know. But again, LLM is very, very simple. Candidate with Angular experience, Lisa Chen, the front-end developer with DevOps focus, has experience with Angular. Would you like to know more about her and work experience? Now, you might look at this chat and say, well, I'm not too excited. This chat has some information. We've got 15 minutes, yeah? Ah, we cool? We still got 15 minutes, yeah? All good? No. It's working. The door working well. Oh, automatically. Oh, sorry. All right. So you might look at this and you might say, well, I'm looking at an LLM kind of chat experience. He seems to know about specific people. Let's look at the code because it's much more interesting. So here we've got a folder of fake CV, right? Bunch of. I'm gonna share this code with you. You can research it later. I got a bunch of PDF into it. And if we have a brief look of how the code would look like to build this kind of application, you will see that eventually a lot of templates, prompt design, all right? Template for the answer, template for the questions, a lot of text information. By the end of the day, I'm using file system to read the directory of all the CVs that I've got in this folder. Once I'm loading all this PDF, you can see here, I'm going to map this PDF into a format that we call the document. I'm going to map this PDF, pulling the content out of them and some metadata. Metadata can be what's the file path, what's the source, what's the phone number. You just find me this Lisa Chen developer. I might want to know, well, give me the file path, the location I want to grab this PDF, or what's their email, because the email is part of the metadata. It's going to be very easy to find. Next, I'm using a vector store. This one is an in-memory vector store, not a third-party one. I use a vector store to take all the mapped PDF, and I'm using OpenAI embedding. It's a machine learning model, wasn't designed for a dialogue, designed to take documents and create vectors out of them. I can choose any other company embedding model, right? The rest of the code, you see there's a different LLM. This is ChatGPT. This is the one I'm interacting with. So now I'm working with two different models. One of them is an OpenAI embedding model, which I use in order to take all of my mapped PDF, create vectors, and store them inside my vector store. The other one is GPT 3.5 Turbo, whatever, generic LLM. So I can talk with it. You see, it's answered with style. It's not just a regular search. And eventually, I scroll down a little bit. There's a retriever of data. This retrieving process that I'll show you right. I haven't showed it you here, but once you split and embed, you need to retrieve the data. Here you go. All right. So now I'm retrieving the data from my vector store. I'm combining this information of the PDF, what I retrieved, I combined it with the answer from my LLM. Eventually, again, I added a lot of code comments so you can later on explore the code if you like and see, like, take your time and understand what's going on. But eventually, that's what's going on. I'm streaming back text response, which is a combination of all my personal data from the CV that I uploaded to my vector store, the results from my search, together with the results from the LLM. And you can get this very, very smooth experience that you can get all the knowledge from the LLM. For example, if Lisa Chen, I can keep asking questions. Maybe she put in her CV, I worked in a company called BuzzBuzz, right? It's a real company. They deal with windmills. They producing soy milk, but that's not the point. Maybe she's working in this company, and I want to get some more knowledge about this company. Maybe the LLM can help me with this because I can see the company located in, I don't know, in some city. And anyway, everything an LLM can do, I can get the results, but combined with my own data. When you play with this, you can go ahead, choose a file. Here's my CV. I just took it from LinkedIn. You can upload whatever CV you like. And if that worked, I don't know, hopefully. If that worked, let's see, let's see in the code. If that worked, yeah, Kaufman PDF. So if that worked now, he should know about me. So do we have a near Kaufman in our um whatever under our documents? Let's see if that worked. Yes, Nir Kaufman is another document. He's a front-end tech lead at Tikal. That's where I'm working with. I think it's impressive. Check out this code. All right. Now I'll say right away, you'll see here a lot of code because I created like a huge example using like a lot of candies, like a lot of frameworks, a combination. So you find the length chain and you find the AI and you find a lot of them. You can achieve the same results with like 10 lines of code if you're using different frameworks. But that's the idea. All right. But that's not enough for us. I kept the best for last, all right? It's still all about text. My vision for the future of website is saying, well, let's combine the power of LLM with UI. Instead of returning text, we can return structural data. We can return objects. If I can return objects, I can take the response from the LLM and then feed it into something else. For example, if my LLM return me a structure object, in the world of Angular, for example, I can use this object and dynamically render a form. So I got this nice UI. I'm going to save the Angular for the last minute, all right? Because that's not the point. But that's not even enough for me. I mean, yeah, I can get this kind of response from LLM and do whatever I want with it, but that's not good enough for me. I want to show you as the last example to inspire you the concept of a multi-step interface. Multi-step interface basically mean let the LLM return me a set of dynamic UI components in order to get a task done. But it's better just to show it instead of just talking about it. Because there are two challenges of what I want to show you, which usually require a lot of code. And this is where Next.js and AI SDK shines. First of all, context. When you start a conversation, you need to keep the context. Now, if I start a conversation with LLM, and in some point I say, well, I want to buy new shoes. Like, can you recommend me this and that? And then sure, and then I get like a nice image of shoes from a specific store, and I say, yeah, that's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about it, the materials, because I'm vegan. I might not. Yeah, cool. I want to buy it. Cool. Now I'm getting this nice, online purchase form. Nice. I can fill up my form. I can even pay. I can get the whole experience, but within the chat. So context is important because I'm going to stream a lot of UI. They need to know about it, but I also need to give my LLM more knowledge and more specific knowledge about specific business logic that it might not be aware of. For example, if I'm building this kind of like online LLM store, he needs to know about my stuff, my product, my shoes, and maybe some other business logic of how, I don't know, my price range or whatever. All right. All right. Let's look on an example of what is a multi-interface and why I think that's probably that's the future. And NVM use 22. I'm just using an old version of NVM, of Node, sorry. Next.js. Let's start with the experience. So I can use this as a standard LLM. Tell me about music. About music. All right. Can send something. You already seen this example, streaming text. That's nice. Now find me a music concerts in Munich on November. Now I'm being very specific. Could you specify the year you're interested for your music? What? All right. On November 27, searching for concerts, and here's a list of concerts: the Beatles, the Rolling Stones. Like I can, but that's not fun. This is Next.js server actions. Let's look how minimal code I need in order to do it. Instead of streaming text, I'm streaming UI, which means that I can choose my model, I can put my system, but now I've got an object of tools. You don't have to. The content that's coming back is JSX. The conversation wrapped with a div can be wrapped with anything you like. But then, if I'm searching for concerts and I've got this description, so the LLM can do his similarity magic and understand that if I'm looking for a music concert, well, I was very specific, but I could also ask for find me nice music to hear while I'm visiting London in 2 months. The LLM will launch this custom function, which is a JavaScript generator function. It's going to yield searching for concerts. That's what you see, and then it's going to call any custom functions that you like. Like this one actually goes to the internet or any my sources looking for relevant consoles because I'm a booking office. And then when it's ready, it's returned me this JSX. But that's not good enough. What if I'm a React developer? I want to build a standard React component, like a concert list component that accepts concerts, or a concert list skeleton, which give you this nice shimmer thing. This is a standard React component. So what if I go back to my LLM and instead of yielding back standard text, I will say, well, give me concert list skeleton, and then do your async function. And then in return, don't return me this. This is not fun. Return a React component called concert list and feed the results as prop. So just stream back, this is all server side. Stream back a React component. And I can go ahead and add some more of this, all right? As you can see here, tool by tool by tool. But eventually, if I fold down this tools section, my custom functions, this is all the code you need hidden behind the stream UI to implement streaming UI. Now, if I go back to my LLM and I ask the same questions, you get a completely different experience. Take a look at this. Now we string back my skeleton and then did what he wanted to do. And then he string back my UI component. And now I can move on. Yeah, I can move on and say, well, I like this. I'm going to click this. And behind the scene, I'm just going to prompt the LLM. Well, give me details about this one and get another component. And all the context, the other challenge is being managed for me because the same SDK gives me a built-in context provider, React context provider. So I can wrap my entire application with just AI and everything keeps in context. Cool. To summarize what we've seen today, Next.js and React shines in this world of these new experiences working with LLM, basically because React is much more mature for server-side rendering. Now take React with Next.js, which taking advantage of React server components and give us the ability to easily stream value between the server and the client. And on top of this, take the same company that built V0 and the same company that support Next.js that work with the React core team, and they build an AI SDK fine-tuned for UI. And with this stack, you can build from streaming simple text to streaming UI components with the minimal amount of code, but still robust enough and help you focus on the real thing, which is like how you want to fine tune your model, how you want to retrieve your data, how you want to build your UI. Yes. So first of all, thank you very much for choosing this session. Oh, yeah. Some octopuses for good luck. Ready? Let's do it the traditional way. All right. First one. Other one. Other side. Other side. All right. And a black one. If you catch a black one, your future will gonna be full of PHP. Now everyone is like, no. Angular. That's the orange side. All right. This one is bad. You know, this is this is the nice one. This is like this is you don't want to talk with this one. And no one want to catch it. Don't touch it. Anyway, guys, thank you. I hope this session you were exposed to of what you can do with Next.js and why Next.js and React you should consider, and go ahead, build great stuff with it. I'm gonna share everything you want. If you want to keep in touch, you can search for my contact details in Google. I have no privacy at all. Just type in Niri Kaufman, you'll find my home address, my social security number, LinkedIn, Facebook, WhatsApp, OnlyFans, whatever you like. All right, everything there. So if you have more questions, I'll be around.